Hello everyone, I'm going to be doing my vlog tonight on Laurie Halse Anderson's book Catalyst. I'm going to post a picture of it, of the cover, along with this video because I read it on an e-reader and it's hard to get the picture of the cover to stay up long enough for you guys to be able to see it, so I'm going to post that along with the vlog. This book was published in 2002 after what's probably Laurie Halse Anderson's most famous book, Speak. It actually takes place in the same universe as Speak does, about a year later after Melinda's story in Speak. So she's a freshman when that happens, and she's a sophomore when she has a very, very brief cameo in Catalyst, and the main character is a senior. So they don't really have any kind of relationship, but the main character does mention that she's heard this story about this Melinda girl. So this story takes place in the same town and in the same high school. The book is about a girl named Kate who is trying to get into MIT. It was the college that her mother went to, and her mother passed away when she was very young, so she's trying to kind of, I guess, follow in her mother's footsteps and get into MIT. But the problem that she faces is she didn't apply to any other schools. She only applied to MIT. So she's waiting back to hear from the one school that she applied to, and she hasn't told anybody that she didn't apply anywhere else. So if she doesn't make it into MIT, then she's in a lot of trouble. And that's kind of the main plot point of Catalyst. It's just Kate trying to, figure out herself and her life, and if she's going to get into this school, and if she doesn't, what she's going to do as a result. She lives with her father and little brother. Her father's the minister of the town, and he seems to be a little more interested in making connections with the people that live in the community rather than with his family, and I think it's probably a coping mechanism for the loss of his wife. Her little brother is very sickly. He's always got a cough, so she spends a lot of her time taking care of the house and taking care of her little brother, and just kind of hoping that this whole college thing works out for her. I will say that the pacing of this novel is very different from other Laurie Halse Anderson books that I've read. I've read Speak, and I've read Winter Girls, and I've read Fever, and all of those are a lot more fast-paced, and they hit you with the main issue right up front. I mean, we read Winter Girls, and you're faced with the loss of a best friend and a severe eating disorder within the first couple pages of the novel. But this novel really focuses more on what I would term a more relatable issue to like a lot of adolescents. I would target it more towards juniors in high school because I think a junior is probably feeling a lot of what Kate is feeling, the anxieties of going off to college, of getting into the right college, of what happens if I don't, what happens when I leave, with the relationships that I've built here, are they going to stay, are they going to go? I think Kate deals with a lot of those, and I think it's a more relatable book than her other novels, but it's not as gripping of a page turner as her other novels are, just because it doesn't deal with any of the like hard-hitting issues that Winter Girls or Speak, hit you with right at the beginning of the novel. I think that Laurie Halse Anderson's books always tend to have that moment where you go, oh, whoa, okay. And that probably didn't happen for me until close to the end of the novel, probably about halfway through. Another important part of the story is Kate's neighbor, Terry, has kind of bullied her and sort of tormented her for her entire childhood, and she's very misunderstood in the community. She's bullied by the football team and just kind of an outcast in the community, and her house burns down one night, and as she and her family are forced to move in with Kate and her family while they renovate the house. And so Kate has to kind of deal with how she's going to accept this girl that's tormented her for her whole life and now is all of a sudden living in the same room with her. So it's kind of, it turns into less of Kate dealing with college and more of Kate dealing with how to function with the people around her. It's more about growing into oneself as a result of the cards you're dealt. So, Kate has a boyfriend and he's known he wants to major in history his whole life, but the events of the novel make him change his mind all of a sudden and kind of changes him as a person. And I think that's kind of what the book is about, just kind of growing into who you are and what's important to you. And Kate seems to really struggle with that throughout the novel. She loves running, so she tends to be, instead of facing the issues in front of her, she just goes out for a run, and then she doesn't sleep at night, and then she just doesn't deal with any of the issues in front of her. So I think when Terry moves in with her and she's forced to deal with several tragedies that occur as a result of Terry moving in, she's forced to finally look at the things that she's been avoiding for her whole adolescence, and she's forced to look at the fact that she's not going to go to college with all of her friends, and she's not, as perfect, and she doesn't have it figured out, and she's forced to face that, and she's forced to tell people that, which is hard for her. She doesn't like to let people see that she doesn't have it all together. So I think it's a really great novel for young adults to read. That being said, it's slower paced. It's not a page turner. To me, it wasn't anyways. But I think it's an important novel to read, especially when you're a junior in high school, or starting to think about college, or starting to think about who you are and what your place is in this world, and whether or not you're going to run away from it, or if you're going to face it and figure out what the future means for who you are as a person. I don't think it's a particularly difficult book to read. As I said, it's not very fast-paced. That's the only problem with it. The language isn't hard to understand, so I think, you could read this book to any high school level. I think there are a few more mature issues that come as a result of Terry moving in, so I probably wouldn't read it with middle schoolers, and I would probably want to read it with older high schoolers only because they're more on the same level as Kate is in the novel. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. It made me think about myself at that time, like who I was trying to figure out I wanted to be. I was deciding whether or not I wanted to go to a small school or if I wanted to go to UGA like everybody else I knew, and I had to decide what was important to me, whether or not I wanted to follow everybody or follow what I wanted. And I ended up going to a smaller school, and it was the right decision in hindsight. I know I ended up at UGA, but I wouldn't change my decisions for the world. They've made me the person I am today. So it made me think back on the decisions that I made and the person that I was and the person that I became as a result of facing growing up. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening.